Well, welcome everybody. My name is Ben Irwin. I'm the Chief Communications Manager for the City of Arvada. And we're going to do another one of these conversation videos with a member of the city team. Today we're going to be talking with Daniel Ryley, and I'll give him a chance to introduce himself in a second and talk a little bit about his organization. But obviously it's been a busy few weeks. We have heard a lot of discussion around recovery. And sort of when we can go back to normal. And now we're talking a lot about the new normal and what that will look like. And so felt like a really good time to talk about businesses, Arvada's business community, and the things that the city and its partners are doing to support the business community, which is why I'm really glad that I had a chance to talk to Daniel today. So Daniel Ryley, welcome. And could you talk a little bit about your role and your organization?
Yeah, thank you, Ben. I appreciate your time, and thanks for reaching out and giving us an opportunity to talk about what the city, as well as Arvada Economic Development Association, has been doing to help our businesses through this really challenging time right now. A lot of our businesses in the community are struggling, and I'm pretty proud of the way that the city has responded to help these folks out. So be happy to share some of that with you. Again, my name's Daniel Ryley. I'm the Executive Director of Arvada Economic Development Association, which is a nonprofit here in Arvada, and I'm also the Manager of Economic Development as part of the Community and Economic Development Work System for the City of Arvada. So we have a really interesting and unique model here to do economic development in Arvada, where we have the nonprofit, which works with City Council to get funding that they then deploy to execute their economic development mission, which is really, in a nutshell, creating a competitive and helpful business environment in Arvada and trying to remove barriers towards business investment. And that nonprofit is made up of a volunteer board of directors. And I am there to serve that board in their direction based on what they want to accomplish using funding that they get from City Council. And at the same time, Arvada City Council and the City of Arvada as a whole is very supportive of economic development efforts. We work very much in alignment. We're fortunate that both the City Council and the board have adopted the same strategic plans over the years, so that we're not working against each other, but working very much in alignment with those respective goals. And so I have the pleasure of serving that board and ensuring that those funds get deployed in a very meaningful and measurable way, and also serving the city to help it execute its respective economic development goals more from the internal side of things at the City of Arvada.
That's great. Yeah, it's really, been inspiring even before we entered the COVID-19 health crisis to see the level of collaboration and partnership that happens across our community, understanding the importance of strong business and a strong business community here. But shifting to COVID-19, we've been, to a much greater degree than me, but we've all been consumed with a lot of activity this week. We had some really exciting news that launched earlier this week, the Emergency Business Recovery Initiative. And I know that it included $2.5 million in bridge funding for small businesses to try to bridge the gap between now and when federal funding comes in. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit about that loan fund and why we put it together, how it came to be, and what the outcomes are so far.
Yeah, thank you. That was a very exciting program that we were able to put together. And I have to give a lot of credit to a lot of different people in that situation. This Arvada City Council, who's always supported our business community tremendously, stepped up in a very big way, committing $1 million of funding to help support this initiative. The AIDA Board of Directors committed $500,000 to support that loan fund initiative. And then the Arvada Urban Renewal Authority as well provided $1 million in a loan to the city to help bolster that fund up to $2.5 million, which we were able to deploy over the last week to over 250 businesses that were in need of that, how you referred to bridge funding or bridge assistance. The premise behind that loan fund, to your point, was really to provide bridge assistance to these businesses in Arvada, We have been doing a lot of investigation research, as well as best practice sharing among economic development professionals in the region and across the country to understand what are some of the ways that the community can respond to help businesses right now and also set the stage for economic recovery on the other side of this crisis. And what we were hearing from a lot of businesses is there were a specific population of businesses that were, number one, impacted pretty severely by mandated business closures by the state or health departments. Some of those included some of the retail, food services, and hospitality industry. And many of those are micro businesses. They're mom and pop shops that don't necessarily have the resources and the financial stability to essentially weather this storm without assistance, particularly because they're left waiting for some federal resources to be deployed. Many are aware that the federal government responded with the CARES Act, which included the Paycheck Protection Program, as well as the SBA's response through the Disaster Loan Fund. Many of those programs also included some rather quick deployment of funds, but for a lot of small businesses, based on the nature of their existing banking relationships or their awareness of those programs, we're not able to access those funds, or those funds are still kind of queued up and waiting to be deployed to those businesses. Many of those businesses have learned that the funds that they hope to get aren't as robust as they anticipated as well. So we felt strongly that we could make a really big impact on these small businesses in Arvada if we could provide them with a tool that provided fast capital injections into their businesses to help them get through until these larger, more robust federal programs started to finally hit their accounts. And hopefully the businesses start to open up again and we start to see consumer activity start to pick up again. So what that looked like in essence was a maximum $10,000 interest-free loan directly from the city of Arvada, which included a repayment incentive that would forgive the last 25% of that loan should the businesses pay it back on schedule. We really wanted to make the businesses or meet the businesses with where their needs were, which is number one, the speed of deploying these resources into those businesses. And number two, a program that was not complicated, that it was easy to apply to, and that allowed the businesses the ability to get needs met, but also not put a large burden of debt on top of them. So we're hopeful that this tool was successful in doing that. And we're hopeful that it helps many of these businesses in Arvada survive through until the other side of this, and help those businesses stay alive, keep their folks employed, and also, again, help the larger economic recovery efforts.
Yeah, it was inspiring to be able to watch that happen. I think for me, one of the things that was the most impressive about it, was that on the Wednesday after the city launched the program, checks were starting to go out the door to the businesses. So just really speaks to the urgency that everybody involved had in making sure that these opportunities could get out the door. I do think that it's worth, you reminding me that at the time that we're talking right now, and this is being recorded, that particular program is sort of ending its life. It's sort of the end of its life. And so what I was hoping you could do is talk about some of the other components of the larger emergency business recovery initiative for people and small businesses and other business community across the community, other resources at their disposal if they perhaps didn't qualify for the loan fund, or perhaps weren't able to take advantage of that particular opportunity.
Thank you, Ben. And that's a great point. As you mentioned, the businesses, and kudos again to the city of Arvada who stepped up not only financially, but also with the internal resources to deploy this funding and also manage all those loan accounts. I mean, over 250 businesses that are borrowing money from the city, being able to quickly set up that system is a testament to, I think, the city's passion to help these businesses. But the flip side of that is that those funds are being exhausted and will likely be completely exhausted by the time folks see this video. And we are aware of that too. We are aware that there's not necessarily enough resources to go around to every single business in Arvada, but we wanted to set up a initiative that was holistic in its approach, knowing that there were certain businesses in Arvada who would benefit from this particular program, but that we would be coming behind that with additional resources for all businesses in Arvada. Many of the businesses in Arvada that are a little bit larger need more resources than we could afford them through this loan program. And many of the businesses also need more than just the shot in the arm from a capital infusion standpoint, but need additional resources and information regarding what other federal loan programs are out there, how to access and navigate those programs, what are some of the legal and policy issues and risks associated with these various programs, and how do they navigate the relationships they have with their banks and their landlords or their other creditors and suppliers. So it's quite a large breadth of resource needs out there. And so as part of the initiative, we also wanted to come behind the loan program with a few other things. One is quite a bit of information that we have compiled in what we're calling the Coronavirus Business Toolkit, and that's in partnership with the Arvada Chamber. Folks can visit arvadachamber.org or arvadaeconomicdevelopment.org to get the links to the Coronavirus Toolkit. And we've tried to organize that information in a very succinct way that it's easy for businesses to understand. This is important and relevant to me in my specific business or my specific industry. And there's a way that I can get questions answered rapidly so I can make business decisions. Another component of the recovery initiative is the thinking forward to what is recovery going to look like for the businesses that are ready to get back out there and start producing again and start serving customers again, and making sure that the city has a environment that is helpful and conducive to that risk that those businesses are going to be taking. Many businesses have been put in a really tough situation where they've been stripped of all their cash and reserves, and it's going to be very expensive and very high risk for those business owners to reinvest when the time is right and to come out and start their businesses up again. And so we want to make sure that the city is as friendly as possible from a regulatory standpoint. And so the new land development code that the city will be approving this spring hopefully will be that conduit and that foundation to make the regulatory process as low risk and give those businesses and developers a lot of confidence that if they're making investments into our community, that they're going to be able to get those businesses and projects up and running. On top of that, the city is also committed to working with all of our business owners on supporting them through case-by-case payment plan options for sales tax liability that they may owe, as well as their utility payments for water and sewer. So there's a lot of kind of more robust, holistic approach to supporting all of these businesses. And then additionally, from a funding standpoint, the Arvada Economic Development Association also quickly stood up a COVID-19 response loan in partnership with Colorado Enterprise Fund. And that's a little bit more traditional financing for businesses, but we were able to partner with the Adams County Commissioners to buy down the interest rate to a 3.5% for Arvada businesses. And they were gracious enough to extend that benefit to all businesses in Arvada, not just on the Adams County side. And that's a loan of up to $25,000 with a 6-year term. So it's more traditional debt with interest, but the Colorado Enterprise Fund is committing to trying to close those loans in 10 days to, again, address the need to get that capital injected into these businesses as quickly as possible. So we're hopeful that using the Emergency Small Business Loan Fund paired with all of these other benefits will really set the stage that businesses in Arvada have that competitive advantage to recover and get back to producing and doing business the way that they need to survive long term.
Sorry, I was muted. That's fantastic. There's just a whole portfolio of options for people and businesses, which is extremely helpful. How helpful has it been to for AIDA and the city to be a partner with folks like the Chamber and the Visitor Center and others on the Arvada Resiliency Taskforce. I think that's what part of the package you were talking about is really a part of that Resiliency Taskforce. And could you just talk a little bit more about how that got started and what that specific focus is?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a lot of credit to our community, our strategic partners. You know, one of the things that we always preach at AIDA is that we can't do this alone. In fact, there's very little that we do through our office that doesn't involve a strategic partner that's helping that lift in a big way. And so I just, a huge shout out to the Arvada Chamber of Commerce, the Old Town Business Improvement District, the Visitor Center, the Community First Foundation, the Apex Center, all of these folks, and there's many other strategic partners at the table I didn't mention as well. In Arvada Center, I can go on, but this is essentially the community banding together and listening to its constituents and saying, what are your needs? Where are your priorities? How can we help respond, convene, provide information, direction, access to these different resources in a very concise and helpful way? Knowing that all of those different sectors, the nonprofit parts of our community, the small merchants, the large businesses, the manufacturers, they all have different needs, and that we need to be very much holistic in our response and how we listen and respond to those. And so the Resiliency Task Force has been that solution in Arvada. It was stood up very quickly because of those strategic partners that I mentioned. And I think it's been a great resource. I think it set Arvada apart, and it's been a best practice that other communities and regions have looked to say, how can we do something similar, leveraging assistance and that heavy lift from all of these various partners, kind of sharing that load. So that's been a great opportunity in Arvada, and I think it's going to help set the stage for recovery as well, having all those relationships in place. I also think it's a testament to the community we have in Arvada that all of these various organizations, we have the relationships already, that it was so quick to form and come together and have that trust and that good rapport with each other that we were able to quickly act and deploy. I think the same thing can be said about the City of Arvada's recovery initiative that partnered with Arvada Economic Development Association and the Arvada Urban Renewal Authority. I think it's absolutely incredible how quickly those organizations were able to come together, make decisions, and partner up and get those programs deployed and act and get the resources out there, as opposed to sitting around just kind of talking about it or spending weeks just to build the trust necessary. So I think it's a huge testament to our community in Arvada. It's one of the reasons that makes this city so wonderful.
Yeah, it's breathtaking generosity of resources and a generosity of spirit. Kind of as we conclude the conversation, I think about all the examples that I've seen of businesses who are, on the one hand, doing everything they can to survive and thrive in this environment, while also helping other businesses and helping first responders and contributing to some of the other efforts. And certainly don't mean to put you on the spot or have to single out any one business, although I'll give you the space to talk about that if you want to talk about some of the things that are going on. But I know just across the city and across the Front Range, really, it's business that's part of a key player to not only trying to keep our economic activity going, but volunteering time and services and finding new innovative ways to deliver protective equipment and other kinds of support to our first responders. Do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. I think it's a wonderful point, and we'd be remiss to thank and credit the business community here in Arvada for everything that they've done through this crisis. When you boil it down, they're the ones taking the big risks. They're the ones taking their own money and resources and putting it out there on the line to start these businesses, many of which were started because they identified a need in the community. They knew that there was a gap or something that they wanted to help fill, and it resulted in lots of great ripples. Their investments into our infrastructure and their investments into creating jobs that give people wages to put a roof over their head and food on the table. And we're very grateful for that. And it's just been very heartwarming to see these businesses who are suffering and struggling to continue to support the community at their own expense, digging down and saying, the right thing to do is to help, even though our revenue has been cut significantly or drastically, we see an opportunity that we can be helpful, and they're stepping up to do that. And it's just amazing to see. And I think there's a few that we're aware of, and I'm sure there are many more that we're not aware of that we would love to know more about. In fact, the city is highlighting many of those businesses in a segment called Hometown Heroes, which is being promoted through various channels like on Channel 8 and social media, but to highlight some of these businesses who are either volunteering and donating incredibly to the community, or they're being creative and they're shifting their business models in order to meet new needs and new opportunities. A few that come to mind. I know the Wedding Seamstress is one that retooled a lot of their sewing capacity into making masks for the community, which is becoming a huge need, and there's huge shortages of that. Another one is Talnua Distillery that shifted production into hand sanitizer that has medical value and for first responders. And they've I was looking at a list of all the recipients of their bulk hand sanitizer. Was just absolutely incredible. Everyone from 911 call centers to Jeffco Sheriff to various fire departments across the metro area to our own police department and other even folks in the food service industry and in trucking industries and other industries that aren't as obvious to have that need have been able to get this very valuable hand sanitizer to help protect their employees and help protect their customers. So those are just a couple examples I can think of. I know the Subway at Arvada Marketplace has been donating thousands and thousands of sandwiches to first responders, as well as hosting just curbside walk-up free sandwiches to the communities on Saturdays, where hungry families in Arvada can just drive up and get a sandwich. So just, again, very heartwarming to see all these businesses doing everything that they're doing amidst all of the chaos and uncertainty and financial pain they're experiencing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks, Daniel. I guess all this talk about supporting the business community, I'm curious, how are you holding up? Are you doing okay with this kind of odd, weird remote working scenario that we all find ourselves in right now?
Yeah, we're making it work. And I'll just take the moment to give a shout out to the team. The AIDA team, they've been doing an absolute wonderful job shifting on the fly to working from home. I think communication has been the most critical aspect of all of this, and they've been just doing an outstanding job of proactively communicating, making sure information is flowing, making sure the ball is not getting dropped. And it's hard. I think we hear a lot that the dynamic of working from home with kids that are out of school, it's very disruptive. It's very asynchronous, but people are finding a way to make it work. And it's a reflection of that passion that the city of Arvada and its employees have, and that the community and our strategic partners have. A huge shout out to the city and our partners there, including your team, Ben, of helping us communicate out to the public and to our business community all the things that are happening, helping get their questions answered, helping direct them to accurate and helpful information in a timely way. And the city council, the city manager's office, I think everyone just banding together has made the experience the best it could possibly be for what we've had to adapt to. And so just very proud of our team and all of our partners across the city.
All right, well, thank you very much. I guess this will probably this will conclude our conversation. Can't thank you enough. I would just want to make sure people are reminded of some of the resources that are available, in particular online. So the Emergency Business Recovery Initiative, people can find more information about all of the different component pieces of that Daniel described by visiting arvada.org/businessrecovery, all one word. We talked about the Resiliency Taskforce and the partnership between AIDA, the city, the chamber, and a host of other people. The Chamber of Commerce is actually hosting a lot of that material on their website. You can find it at arvadachamber.org/COVID-19. And the business toolkit that Daniel mentioned is available there. And there's a workforce toolkit and a host of other initiatives and resources. So go check that out. I'll touch on that a little bit at the end too. Finally, you can get more information about AIDA at www.arvadaeconomicdevelopment.org. And the city's response to COVID-19, we're trying to keep people updated on all of our communications channels, but a good place to start is arvada.org/COVID-19. A couple of things just as reminders. We want people to continue to stay informed about this health crisis, continue to rely on health authorities, local and state health authorities, including the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And then finally, just a reminder, there's many ways that you can help support our local businesses. Certainly, whenever possible, buy local, buy online, use curbside service, particularly for ordering food. And it just reminds me of one of the things that's available through the Resiliency Taskforce, Daniel. It's that Chow for Champions, which is such a virtuous sort of initiative, because what it does is anyone can donate any amount of money, and the funds are used to purchase food from local restaurants that are then donated to first responders, supply chain workers. The city of Arvada has benefited from this, and other people, public servants. So just want people to know that there's many different ways you can give back.
Yeah, that's a great example. I love the concept of Chow for Champions, as it's twofold. It's showing appreciation to those frontline workers who are critical, and they're out there risking exposure and risks to themselves and their family to help keep the world moving. And those are our first responders in fire protection and police, law enforcement, as well as you mentioned, frontline workers in the supply chain. I know recently Chow for Champions delivered Steubens over to King Soopers frontline workers, which I think, it probably makes them feel very appreciated, which they are. And that maybe message isn't communicated as often. But I know our first responders here in Arvada feel the appreciation when big deliveries of food show up, supported by anonymous contributors in the community. And while we're at it, that money is going to support those Arvada restaurants that are trying to stay open, that are trying to find every revenue source possible. So it's very helpful to them, and it's greatly appreciated by all of those folks who are still out there working on the front lines.
Wow. Well, I'm inspired. I'm ready to get back to it. I don't know about you, Daniel. Thank you for your time. I hope you and your family stay well, and thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Same to you and yours.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye.